Norn got some issues going on, some things that she's got to kind of get over here. Thoughts of feeling that she's inferior in comparison to a sibling, in comparison to, I guess, multiple siblings at that point, kind of being put down. She's just kind of bland, right? She's average. There's nothing special about her at all. And she's struggling to really find a place of belonging, a place where she can feel accepted, be herself, kind of. Well, we still don't know really enough about her. There's reasons for that. And I'm assuming through traumatic things and stuff that have happened in the past made her grow that strong relation and everything that she had to Paul at a certain point. Her reason for caring so much and thinking so highly of somebody like him and somebody like Ryujin are kind of these prime examples of what people should kind of be, and having somebody like Rudy as her brother is not necessarily that in her own mind. So it's interesting, I think, to go a little bit more into this, see a little bit more into her own mind, how we can work towards the adjustment. It would make plenty of sense as somebody who's reverting more into her shell here and becoming very withdrawn from the situation, that Rudy is the person who has gone through this before, to be the one who, reach out that helping hand the same way that others were able to for him, and kind of pull him out of this darkness that he found himself in, and allow her to be somebody that he can kind of help in the situation. While I don't know the direct approach that he can do, I think that he'll be able to work things through a little bit. And I don't know, the line of too much influence, like too much influence on what the person actually does and says and feels in these situations, is kind of blurry right now. Like, it's just finding that right balance of what works to allow her to feel strong enough to go out and kind of do these things on her alone or on her own. The amount of like intervention that he almost has in it, that's the kind of line I think that we're walking on, and he needs to figure out the right balance for him to fit in or push in without feeling like he's putting her down for making her feel worse about the situation that she's actually in and finds herself in, and that she's actually aware of, but also that she can kind of attribute the things that she does to her own success and her own will of like going out of her way and doing these things, as opposed to somebody else's willingness to help out and put her in that situation. So I'm excited to see, I guess, kind of how we do that. I'm like 99% sure that ends this episode. Like I'm pretty positive we'll be able to get to it by the end of this. So hopefully you guys enjoy. If you like it all, like and subscribe to me. Let me feel free to stick around with the discussion. Let me comment this episode or series is going with episode 17 of Mushoku season 2. That's a clear mirror towards yourself. And you know what happens and how you felt in that situation. Yep. The line of saving and just being there, though, is what I'm worried about. Uh-oh. Alright, she's not here. I'm leaving. Just verify. That's what they say, right? That's how it feels about family and everything, right? This is the typical way. That dude's literally a full deer. Look at his long head. Uh-oh. How are you gonna handle this? Okay. I don't like this approach in the slightest, I have to be honest. We'll see how we develop it more, but I think this is probably not the right way to approach it. Especially without talking to her first and you kind of making a big deal over it, might allow her to kind of be teased a little bit more. Also, if nobody actually did anything and she just struggles to kind of be with other people, it makes him look really stupid in the situation. So I'm not a fan right now of what he's doing. Nope. That's crazy because it has to do with you, but not with somebody else, right? was like, oh, your brother could do it, so you should be able to.
やりきれなかったから裸に向いて職員室に立たせたと。まさか。
Brother.
少々出来が悪かったので、お兄さんを見習ってもう少し勉強しなさいと。そしたら泣きそうな顔になって。
Right. And that's the last thing that she wanted to hear. And he's imposing, I think, almost of what he wishes that somebody else would have done, and also the things that did occur to him in the past onto the situation now. And he makes it look entirely worse, I would argue. But it seems a lot of the people are becoming aware of the things that they may have said to her through what he's saying. I still don't like the approach, but it seems like it might be working because they're at least becoming self-aware a little bit.
さぞ嫌だっただろう。今まで散々愛者と比較されてきたのに。今度は大嫌いなアニットだ。
That's just the worst, isn't it? For her.
話は聞いたよ。妹のために動くのはバカじゃないぞ。あっちにも妹がいるから、ボスの気持ちはわかるにゃ。でもちょっと意外だったの。見直したの。
どうもこうもないでしょう。俺のせいで引きこもったのですから。
引きこもった。そう。引きこもったのだ。
無理やりにでも授業を受けさせるの。そうにゃ。
Nope. Probably shouldn't do that.
そうにゃそうにゃ。リニアみたいなアホになるの。
Yeah, you don't want that.
着こなんで部屋から出てこないわけじゃないですよ。出てこないのは出てこないなりの理由があるからです。無理に外に連れ出しても何の解決にもなりません。けどかといってこのまま引きこもらせたままなんて絶対にダメだ。するって。
What even can you do, right?
妹さんのこと私たちも協力させてほしいの。ボスにはいつもお世話になってるからね。でアリエル様が演説する。
I don't know.
それ本当？
What is this gonna make?
ほら早くもう始まっちゃうわ。
助手寮の生徒の気を引いてもらう。その間に俺が侵入し、ノルンに会うという作戦だ。
アリエル様に感謝しないとな。リニアとプレセナは
They're on guard to pounce on anyone who comes through.
僕もノルンちゃんの部屋に行ってみたんだけど、話を
I mean, what? Yeah, why?
シルフィは何も悪くないさ。大丈夫。ノルンは俺が何とかしてみせる。
She doesn't like your brother, and she doesn't trust you by association. Like, it would make sense. There's flying up there. Holy shit. That's badass. I have to smuggle a boy in. I don't know why I didn't just assume that it wouldn't be able to get in. Like, I thought at the beginning of the episode that's where we started, but... The thing about it is he keeps asking that question, what can I do? And as the person watching this, I don't know. I truly don't know. So maybe it's wrong of me to say that any attempt that he attempted to make at the beginning is wrong as a result. But I just feel that approach was wrong. Huh? Sees himself. I wonder if she actually had said that there too, but he heard it in his own voice coming out to him. Or he just kind of put that on it. But he reached out and made the attempt. Which is not what you need to hear at the time. Yeah, that's absolutely not what you need to hear at the time.
逃げればずっと逃げ続けることになる。それはもっと辛い。しばらく学校に行かなくてもいいから、とりあえず俺と一緒に飯でも食いに行こう。
Okay, small steps.
そんな感じのこと。俺は
Right, of course.
心の中で唾を吐いこんな奴に俺の気持ちはわからないと。そう決めつけて。
You've never been in my situation. You can impossibly begin to understand the humiliation and things I feel I have to go through each day, right? Although you have here... Yeah, and you start realizing that other people have tried absolutely everything that they can. Yeah.
だけど多分ここで引いたら俺も戻ってこられないだろ
う。
いつからだろう。この人を恐ろしいと思うようになったのは初めて会った時 この人はお父さんを殴っていた。それまでずっと私を守ってくれていたお父さんを。
Right.
誰よりも私を大切にしてくれていたお父さんを。
And that's why all the wrongdoings he's done can almost be forgiven by her and her logic from last week, right?
認められるはずなかった。
And you look at everything he does as negative and you become the biggest hater in the world.
ついこの間、久しぶりに会った時は酔っ払って女の人と一緒にいた。今もきっとお父さんは必死にお母さんを。
But look at him just doing something like this, right?
この人はとても幸せそうだった。
Same type of argument Paul tried to make.
ここに私を大切にしてくれる人はいないんだ。
わかった。じゃあノルンは寮で暮らすといい。
なんで怒らないの？わがまま言うなって怒鳴るんじゃないの？この人は私に興味がないのかもしれない。
He's just trying to do away with me.
きっと私が邪魔なんだ。そう考えるとなぜか少し悲。
That's funny too, because I took her saying that entirely different than she actually perceived it last time.
ひょっとしてルーデウス・グレイラットさんのご家族ですか？
Follows me everywhere I go.
はい、あのルーデウスさんの。
学園最強の
And then you have expectations placed on you through others.
すっげえ。妹ってことは
Nope.
マジとかお兄さんに習ってるのか？
We don't even talk.
何それ？じゃああなたも魔術の天才なの？
お兄さんすごいよね。とっても強いし。
See, this is awful to hear from her perspective.
ノルンです。
Don't even know you for you, know you for who you're related to.
はい、ノルン・グレイ。実は私たち前にルーデウスさんに魔術を教えてもらったことがあって、そのお礼を伝えてほしいんです。
Tell him yourself.
すいません。
アリエル様とお兄さんの関係が気になるのかい？安心したまえ。君のお兄さんはああ見え。
知りたくない。
Hmm.
ああ、ルーデウスさんだ。
俺話したことあるんだぜ。
It talks. The deer thing talks.
みんなこんな人のことを。
Unable to see that part. What is your roommate here? This motherfucker got a crazy style. Can we get a better shot, please?
この人のことがわからない。
You won't understand unless you talk.
勘弁してやってくれよ。
私あの人嫌い。
ルディもな、辛かったんだよ。
父によく言われた言葉だ。当時幼かった私には理解できなかった。あの人は私が思ってるような人ではないのかもしれない。
Hmm.
じゃあ私はどうすればいいんだろう。
I've been so rude for this entire
私にど
time.
うしてほしいんだろう。父はどうやって仲直りしたんだ。
お前の兄はお前が思っているような人間ではない。強く、賢く、そして尊敬すべき戦士だ。
わからないよ。
お前にもわかる時が来る。次に会った時は逃げずに奴と向き合え。
I'm saying,
家族なのだから。きっと仲
if you face things and you give it the best attempt that you can,
父は逃げなかったぞ。
that's also true. And don't make any excuses for it in the process either, saying that you did when you really didn't. If you still feel that way at the end of the day, go your own way. But at least you can say you made that attempt with no regrets, right?
ごめんな。お前こっちに来てから辛いだろ。せっかく新しい環境なのに、俺のせいでこんなことになって、なんて言えばいいか。俺さ、お前のことよくわかんなくてさ。
Open up just a little bit. Wow.
俺いるから、いなくならないから。お前のことちゃんと見てるから。だからここにいていいか。
兄はきっと絶対に私を殴る。
Absolutely not.
きっと父のことももう絶対に殴らない。父は逃げなかった。兄も逃げなかった。
And he promised he would stay.
私は
You can't either, right?
おはようございます。
Slowly moving forward, she can actually greet him now. And Sophie.
おはよう、ノルンちゃん。ノルンちゃん、なんだかあの夜から少し明るくなったみたい。
結局俺は何もできなかった。自分で自分の気持ちに整理をつけたのだろう。すごい子だ。彼女は生前の俺にできなかったことをやったのだ。俺もあの時ノルンのようにできていれば、兄貴の真意も何もかもが闇の中だ。ただ長い間奥歯に挟まっていたものが取れたような気がした。
Freeing, almost seeing somebody go through it like that and actually come out on top.
七星が元の世界に帰る時が来たら、その時は兄貴に一つ伝言を頼もう。あの時はごめんなさい。そしてありがとうと。
While not knowing how to connect, making the attempt to connect, still appreciative of that. Incoming turning point 3. Sorry, I saw it on Twitter. Spoiler already. Not surprised. What's even crazier about that is I actually have the words turning point 3 blocked. If they come out, I didn't actually have to see them. And somehow they still came up. So I don't know. I'm sorry. I tried. Once again, I tried. A big turning point for the family, while not being the turning point due to the fact that the turning point comes next week, but turning point for the characters individually and their relationships and everything that comes between them. I think is the best way that I can kind of end up putting that. It's a big moment, though, is I think what I'm trying to say for a lot of the characters. And it's very emotionally charged for each of them themselves in it. And this is one of those episodes where I can 1,000,000% see tons of people falling in love with and thinking it's great due to a variety of different reasons, definitely, but due to personal connection and thing that they kind of have with it, whether it be kind of putting themselves in Norn's shoes and due to other relationships and stuff they had, whether it be with friends, family, or just siblings, or just, you know, anything, or being able to even put themselves in Rudy's shoes of being somebody who wants to desperately help somebody who finds themselves in a dark state and unsure of exactly what it is that you can do. Well, typically, as we end up seeing once again throughout this episode, there's usually nothing that you can do besides just kind of be there in support for the person, and hopefully that person can mentally kind of overcome the things that they need to through the reassurance and understanding that other people are there for them, and not kind of isolate themselves and separate themselves in a way that Rudy kind of has plenty of times in the past. I mean, and we even see with him speaking on the way that he just figured his brother absolutely knows nothing about him or doesn't fully understand the things that he's going through, and he's just kind of like putting up this front and saying these things to him, and, you know, acting like, you know, everything's going to be good and fine when he doesn't think that it is, and he turns to be dark at that situation, right? He turns to the side that you don't want to be on, whereas we're able to see Norn kind of overcoming that and being the complete opposite of him in this situation, and mentally being strong enough for her not to close her walls and close herself off from everybody else, and actually come forward and really try and develop herself to a point that she can actually speak outwards to him and face him head on, right? Due to probably the positives and stuff within her family and the words of wisdom and stuff that she got from Paul and everybody else, and kind of puts that all into context here for all of that to come to life. But when it comes to each individual kind of watching this, like I said, I think plenty of people will relate and connect to it because of either side that's going to be on. Me personally, none of that really relates in the slightest, which I think is unfortunate and allows me to see an episode that likely is, like I said, probably very emotionally charged for a lot of people going into it, have little impact on me as a person or just my overall experience, and it just almost feels like another episode to develop the story itself going forward, as somebody who likes to kind of insert himself almost a lot and kind of become very invested within the stories and actually feel those emotions and try and, you know, up the way that I may have act or whatever when it comes to being on camera and stuff for these, but also just like in my own time of actually how I can kind of relate personally, and all of that stuff affects me. All of this doesn't do any of that, which is a bit unfortunate, but it's just, I think it's a personal thing that kind of comes out of it due to the fact that I've never felt like I was really in either of these people's situations. I've never almost felt like I can really relate at all in the slightest to any of this. So it's a little difficult to kind of put myself in either of their shoes in this situation, and really emotionally kind of connect to either of these sides of the story that we're trying to tell here, which definitely I think is a little upsetting to see, because you definitely would like to have something that you can kind of gain out of this. If anything, it just kind of reaffirms a lot of the things that I've been under the impression of already, I guess, going into this, of maybe how to kind of approach certain situations in the way that others can kind of be impacted greatly by the way that you speak on them, or the way that you speak to them, as a result of whether it is somebody else that they're related to and comparing it to them, or the directness that we almost see where nobody actually refers to or understands or knows Norn for who she actually is, as opposed to just being Rudy's sister, and it's the title and the label and everything that you absolutely don't want in that situation, right? There's a lot of things that are pretty unfortunate about what it is that she has to go to, but once again, unfortunately, I don't think I can connect myself to that in the slightest, and it doesn't really impact me, which I think just definitely sucks. But with that said, it all does come together quite nicely, and I unfortunately, I think I have a negative view once again of the idea of what we're doing to portray Norn's journey and her story here, as something that's just almost used as a convenient way to display more of Rudy's past and the things that he's gone through, and kind of understanding the growth that he's going in, while he was the person who in the situation, who he was in the past, now he's becoming almost his brother in that situation, and how he's kind of changed so much over time. And it almost feels like that. But at the same time, I don't want to just be negative and say that, because it isn't too far-fetched, and it's entirely realistic to think that you can have a sibling, or maybe even a child or something, in the situation where they would ultimately feel like this. It could be even a friend, I guess, but where they would feel like this as a result of these things, and you can kind of just have a relation to them closely while you've gone through something like this prior with yourself too. So I don't think that's too far gone. It just almost feels like a convenient way for them to do that and tie it all in nicely. It's clever, is I guess what I should be saying. I don't know why I'm knocking it down a little bit. I don't mean it that way. I really don't. The entire situation is really interesting too, because it's a clear reference to him and his situation and the things that he's gone through, and he sees the similarities and all that stuff within it. But at the same time, it's entirely different, where he doesn't have to go through bullying, or Norn in the situation isn't going through bullying, and isn't kind of putting herself in a lot of the situations and stuff, and the same thought processes and everything that Rudy went through. But hers is very different, where he is the cause of this, right? It's through somebody else. It's through the words and the things that somebody else is saying, even if it's not meant with any malice. There's no real negative intention to kind of behind it. It's everybody just operating on their day-to-day life, not realizing the negatives and the things that they're doing to harm the person around them, and forcing them to kind of retreat and becoming who they actually are. Whereas like his situation, it's pretty obvious, if you keep fucking bullying this person, he's going to become what he ended up becoming. So him being able to luckily grab onto that after, him taking a wild approach at the beginning, and then just be almost stuck and uncertain of how you approach that situation, and what it is you say, what it is you do. Is there anything that you can say or do, when he unfortunately comes to the conclusion that it's just like a reassurance thing. It's not something that you can actually do. There's nothing that you can do to change this person's mind or put them in that situation. There's nothing that you can really say or anything. It's just kind of doing your best to being like, I'm here for you, letting them know, letting them to visibly see the things that you're going through and the attempts that you're trying to make and the care that you actually have for that person. And hopefully at a certain level, you can connect and relate to them, and they can visibly kind of see that, or just get that feeling that you're trying to transmit over to them. Because if not, if they take it any other way, similar to how he did prior, it just negative things kind of really happen. And then you also have to just put the immense trust that you have in that person, that they truly want to be saved, not that they're just sitting around and they're just waiting for things to kind of bypass, knowing that it's not actually going to happen, but putting, the mind to it. And she's really trying to work herself through this and understand the situation that she's in, and if there's anything that she can do to move forward and be comfortable with what it is that she's kind of going through here. I'm going to skip through now because I feel like I'm just yapping about a whole bunch of different things. So we do a lot of fun stuff with perspective changes, door openings. They use like the cloth as another thing to be able to change, go in and out of the flashback, which is all pretty neat for us to be able to see. He immediately comes right into the classroom here and is not very excited for what he's going to have to go through. Yelling at absolutely everybody, just assuming it's the exact reflection of the situation he's gone through in his past, which is not even slightly the case. This is a complete wrong approach, in my opinion, to take. And I will say I completely understand it. So, you know, you don't have to feel like you have to justify this to me. I completely understand why he's doing this, especially having been in that situation before, probably of wanting somebody else to stand up for him like this before, but also the idea of, you know, it just makes you enraged thinking about that there's somebody else kind of doing this, something like this, and it's allowing other people to kind of retreat similar to how he ended up having to. So he gets enraged in that moment and wants to immediately go and attack, go on the offensive in the situation, strike down anybody and anything that's kind of doing these things. Now, the problem with the situation that he's kind of putting himself in, and maybe it's a lucky thing and it's a perfect scenario that we find ourselves in due to his status that he has within the school, right? Due to the name that he's made for himself, being the strongest in the fear and everything that gets struck through everybody else, through these rumors and stuff that kind of get spread. So he's almost lucky in the situation for what he's in. But any ordinary person in this moment who would come through and do something like this, had she been being bullied in the situation, would continue to get harassed a lot worse because of the stupid shit that you just did by coming forward and doing this, as opposed to taking charge and going to talk to that person. People are going to use this as ammunition kind of against you if they had those problems and those things with you, which luckily, once again, that isn't the case. Luckily, this entire situation worked out perfectly for you, and it had no negatives because you were able to go in, make a complete fool of yourself and do some stupid shit like this, and then find out actually the real reason behind it being yourself, and then you make yourself feel like even more of a fool for what you ended up going through. So like I said, a perfect scenario kind of played out here for him, but typically in likely the real world with normal people, right, say his sister, we're considering her to be extremely normal, how she almost views herself too, if he had been that exact sort of person and not this, you know, very highly looked up to person within our status within the school, things would have likely played out entirely different here, which is not a positive thing in the slightest. So yes, I do completely take issue with the way that he made this approach here. Jumping to conclusions over with the way he's attacking the situation until he unfortunately has to come to the realization that he may be the problem, right? The comparisons that she always gets made to everybody else, the feeling of being inferior to her family, to everybody else that others look up to and praise, and they think that she's just kind of there in the background. She's just normal. She's nothing special about her, and they all just kind of praise and look up to somebody or all of her siblings, and she can't really grasp onto that thought. So of course he has no clue what to do in this moment. You want to help, but you can't. What am I doing? What am I going to do? How do I do this? What is the best approach? And of course, bringing other people into this works out perfect. Being able to use Sylphie in this situation, and everybody else wanting to take that charge too and help you and do whatever it is that it is, because of all the good things that you've kind of given them in the past, repaying that almost, but also just on a mutual level of, okay, we can help each other out in times of need, and in these situations, if you need me for anything, I'm able to. So we create this big stunt, we get everybody out of the dorm, gives us a perfect opportunity to go in, talk to everybody. The sneak mission's pretty fun. I like how he's able to just fly up like this and go into the window, and then we have to smuggle him on through, which is fun until we're able to go talk to Norn. We try and open the door, and he hears a voice, right, telling him, I don't actually remember what it said, but it was some harsh shit, right, to leave him alone or whatever. I'm assuming she didn't actually say this. I'm assuming it's just directly him hearing his own voice, and having that fear, the anxiety almost of what's going to, or what I've gone through in the past, the way that I've reacted and taken this entire situation, and that fear that she's in a similar spot, even though it's kind of different circumstances that led to it. It's not good for him, right? And it sends a panic into him, unable to move the curtain and seeing basically the barrier, the wall, right? We're able to use that. The table's kind of displayed like that in a similar way here. It's something kind of protecting you and blocking you off. The wall that he's looking at in a way that he doesn't actually have to see his brother. We talk about how his brother made these attempts over and over. He's trying to get him out, which, to be fair, his brother said some things that definitely shouldn't have been said, right? You know, a lot of people have it worse in this world than you. It's like, why the fuck would you say that to somebody who doesn't want to go out? That's going to make them want to get out more, of course. It's like, that's not smart. But at the same time, just him wanting to be like, all right, let's just go out. Let's just hang out. Let's go get food. Let's do something, right? Just trying to get him out, trying to let him know that he's there for you if you need somebody to talk to, that he wants wants you to get out, and he doesn't want you just to be all holed up inside like this. And he wants you to understand that are people that do care for you, and they're trying to put in that effort for you. But it's one of those, he may have taken the wrong approach with certain things that he said or did in the situation, but you can feel the care that's kind of coming off of him. It doesn't feel like he's just doing it because you're an inconvenience to him or something, and they're going to look at you like that. It's almost like hey, I don't know what to do. And Rudy can kind of reflect on that and see himself in the situation, which I think the ultimate conclusion that he comes to by the end of the episode ends up being so strong because he's able to put all of this into perspective of the situation he finds himself in now, and being like, I don't know what the fuck to do. I don't know how to handle this. I don't know the best approach for me to take. And he's like, damn, my brother probably felt like he was in the exact same situation. Like, what does he do talking to somebody that's like this? Especially if you hadn't have gone through it, what do you do? And you've never had to save somebody from something like this, or made that attempt to reach out and do any of this, right? You've never experienced this. What is the correct path and the goal for you to have here? It's a little bit difficult for him to do. So ultimately, he just assumed this guy wants nothing to do with him. He listened to it. He gave into it. He just disappeared. And he's like, all right, I'm not going to do this. And that's the big thing that Rudy's able to really take from it. Like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be in a situation where they feel that it's a complete loss. This person isn't going to do anything. And then I would just give up and I'd run away. If I leave here now, I'm not going to be able to face this situation and move back in, right? I need to be able to make an action and do something like this now, continuously thinking on it. What do I do in this situation? Thinking about what his brother tried to make, the attempts that he tried to make over and over, and how he must have felt, and the difficulty it would be for him to ultimately come back in after the efforts that he already had to make. We flip sides and then get to still see, right? I like how the curtain has some transparency to it, so you can see the person a little bit too, but still not directly facing them, right? There's some sort of barrier that's kind of in the way between the two of you, as we get to see a little bit behind Norn in the things that kind of happened with her, right? The dealing with plenty of other people, almost feeling like you're the burden, right? In the situation, and she took it entirely. I took it as like, this is something she really wants to do. This is a good thing, right? She's facing you head on. She's looking you dead in the eyes while she asks you for what it is that she wants. When she didn't end up taking it like that at all, right? She thought of this as, let me just say some shit here in this moment. Why is he not getting mad? Why is he not retreating back? Is he just trying to do away with me? Is it because I'm completely useless, right? Making yourself completely sick in the process. It's a big issue, right? And then we expand on from that, having to be in a world here, in a situation in a new land, removed from the only person that you cared for, the only person that you actually could feel comfortable around. And then you find another one in Ryujin who you no longer can be around either. And now you're just stuck being with this person who you absolutely despise, the person that you've hated for the longest period of time. And now, once you get to school, everybody's comparing you to that person. Oh, he knows how to do this. Oh, he's this special person. He must have taught you these things. You must actually, be extremely close, just assuming that she's like this other prodigy or something else. I don't know who the fuck this person is. I'm assuming they got a crazy design. They're not just that's not gonna be the only time that we see them at all. Talking with Luke, once again, he brings it up, asking, oh, you probably want to know things about like this situation or about your brother and stuff. It's like, no, the fuck I don't. Stop talking about it, right? But everybody keeps doing that. How difficult that must be to be somebody who almost views themselves as absolutely nothing, having to constantly hear about the great things that somebody else around them has done that you almost feel that it's incapable, or you are incapable of actually doing. How people only want to talk about that person and only want to mention that when it comes to you. That's how a lot of times people who go viral for like the wrong reasons, or I say the wrong reasons, but it's like for a specific thing, right? And then they do like interviews and things, and they have to talk about it for years and years and years on end. It's like, you don't know me outside of the situation, this thing that happened, and that's all you're going to constantly bring up, and it's always something that's on your life. And while you may have been proud of it at a time, and a lot of times the people who create a lot of these things that do maybe aren't, and then they have to look back, and it's not the greatest thing for them to have to go through, having to relive and constantly talk about it, and people only know you for that one thing, as opposed to seeing you as this actual person. It's a complete mess, right? She finds herself completely destroyed by this, always thinking about it, until she starts really reflecting. And this is the thing that Rudy wasn't able to do, right? Previously, this is the thing that he had. He put up those walls and he just told himself, all right, this is it. Like, there's nothing that I can do about it. Nothing that I say, nothing that I do, nothing that anybody else does will be able to put them in a situation where they can fully comprehend and just understand the things that I've gone through and the ways that I feel. They'll never completely get it, but she is trying to make that effort. What should I do? Why is he still here? What do I do in this situation? Still reflecting on the Ryujin conversation, but ultimately gets to a point where she's like, okay, what happened between him and Paul? Why did that situation happen, right? I hated him for all these reasons before, attacking the person that I care for most, the protector almost of me, who I seen go above and beyond over however long it was that they ended up having to travel alone for. It's almost like a similar, okay, this person or Paul in the situation was mad at Rudy for a variety of things. How are they able to get over that? How are they able to work this out, even though they attacked each other and that whole situation went down? And she's able to realize, like, okay, a lot of these people have told me around them, right? This isn't something that this isn't the person that I think that he is. I've created this vision, this version of this thing or this person inside my own mind from so long ago that I'm assuming that that's the case. That's how this thing should be. And then almost looking at like Paul or Ryujin as like this gold standard of what a person should actually be. And I haven't gotten that sense at all from this person, even though you haven't known this person because you haven't seen them in how long it has been now. And realizing that maybe if you actually do sit down, you go face to face with somebody and you can talk these things out, it puts you in a good position because then you then have the option. Okay, I can fully understand why this person did the things that they did, said the things that they did, went the directions that they did, right? Like all of this can make sense to me. And then you can make the decision, okay, do I still want to feel the way that I always have about them? Should I still feel wrong for feeling the way that I did? Or should I feel different? Or should I understand why everybody else has been praising him so much? Should I understand what he's actually capable of and the type of person that he is? And in realizing like, oh shit, maybe that's an attempt I should make. And it really doesn't click to her until she's able to pull the curtain out and see the exact same face basically being made that she ended up realizing that Paul ended up having, the desperation and of uncertainty of what exactly it is that they should end up doing. This is a criticism, I think, once again. Maybe this isn't the actual comparison and stuff that they were going for, but this is how I read it, at least, is like she ends up seeing them exactly. She sees him within him, but at the same time, it's supposed to be, I would assume, a mirror of the same thing of like the desperation and like the lost hope of like not knowing what to do, but you can tell that they're trying extremely hard and wanting to help in that situation. And I guess get that same feeling off of Rudy's face, but I feel like that kind of should be the layer that we're going for here, which, like I said, the criticism of, I feel like a lot of the facial expressions and things that we make throughout different moments we had with the Nanahoshi episode and everything too. I feel like they struggle at certain moments to really display them, which is all unfortunate. But at this point, we're able to kind of just break down in reassurance of kind of being here, crying within his arms, and we come together. And I think it's a pretty sweet way for us to have this all conclude, right? It's not something that needs to be dragged out for many more episodes or anything. It doesn't. It's something that happens with a lot of people, but she's able to face this head on in the situation, and it ended up working out pretty nice, which is also very apparent by us actually being able to greet Rudy, us actually be able to speak to and greet Sylphie when we see these people, the things that we would avoid so much at the end. And I like him thinking about, how if Nanahoshi can ever go back to the other world, him thinking about what his brother actually thought in those situations and just kind of being thankful for him for actually making that attempt and that effort, while it was him that pushed him away and didn't allow things to actually work out for the better. Look where he actually is now and how thankful he is for being in this situation, and he deserves at least that thanks for the efforts that he kind of had to go through and make. I feel like I just nonstop rambled for however long that was, but hopefully you guys ended up enjoying. We got a turning point coming up next week. We're not going to talk about that right now. We'll talk about it before the beginning half of the next episode. So hopefully I will see you guys all there for Turning Point 3. If you liked it all, the like and subscribe to me a lot to me. Feel free to check out the videos on the channel. If it comes to this particular series, I'll be back for Turning Point 3 next week. I hope you guys have a great one. Peace.